We are going to begin our project forum on the Central Vermont Career Center building project. We'd like to welcome everyone who is here in the room and online. We'll have a brief presentation, and then after that presentation, we will have a question and answer period. So if you hear anything that you would like to have more information about as we go through this presentation, then you can have your questions answered when we are done. Presentation will probably take 10 to 15 minutes.
Just opening it
now. Let's do this just so that everyone online knows who we are. We'll go around the table and say who we are, and then any of our members who are online, we will call upon you to introduce yourselves. So we'll start across the table.
Sure. Corey Hackett. I'm from the Harwood Union Unified School District.
Good evening. I'm Guy Isabel. I'm the at-large member from the Area Supervisory Board.
Good evening, Todd Coleman. I'm the at-large member from U32 District and resident of Middlesex.
Jenna Austin, I represent Plainfield and Trinfield on the board.
I'm Patrick Welly from Middlesex, and I'm the appointed board member from the Washington Central Unified School District.
I'm Lyman Castle. I'm the at-large representative from Montclair, Roxbury.
I'm Alice Farrell. I represent the Barry Unified Union School District here on the Career Center Board.
I'm Michelle Lehman. I'm the business manager here at Central Vermont Career Center.
What I'd like to do to kick us off is just to give a little history of this project that brought us to this point. This is not something that we began yesterday. It actually began in about 2018-19 at that school year, where the question of how to best serve the students of the region in the Career and Technical Center. We knew at that time that we were running out of room, which prevented program expansion. It also prevented in any increased number in students attending the programs that we did have. So a visioning program was begun under our former director, Penny Chamberlain, and groups from the community, groups from business came together with their wish list and desires for our career center. And that was put to paper by various individuals, both inside the community here at the Career Center and through consultants. And we came up with the idea for a totally new building. The reason for the new building was that at the time, there was some question as to whether or not Spalding High School would need the space that we occupied as a career center. And also the fact that trying to retrofit the space that we had at the time, it was for the welding program, which we now have in place, of where to find a space to put that. And the question came down that the way to do it was to build a new facility. Then the great COVID struck, and we were really put on a way back burner for 2 years. And while the world recovered from COVID. And when we came back from that, the quest to continue this program continued. We reconnected with our consultants and our visioning team here at the center and came up with a final plan to construct a new building, that would be our way forward. And that is what brings us to tonight, that we have come through the design phase, we have come through the budgeting phase, we have established what we need for programs, for students, for the community, and we are here tonight to share with the community what it is that we would appreciate everyone's support in building this new Central Vermont Career Center. So with that, we will begin our program of going through this information.
Thanks, Alice. And right now, Jody Emerson, she'll be here momentarily. She's our superintendent director. She was going to kick off this talking, oh, there she is.
She's here.
Introducing our board, letting you know our representation from the board, which Alice did, as well as giving us a little bit of background. I'll kick it over to Guy.
I just want to give a little perspective as someone who's been involved on the board and the regional advisory board in the past, and Madam Chair is correct. The vision really began in 2018, and that's when the spark started. And the fire really got lit when we became a governing board on our own. And I just want to say that I get accused of being overly excited about the Career Center. And I'm glad I am. I wear my Career Center stuff everywhere I go, and the comments that I get are absolutely amazing, especially from kids. And I'm always talking to kids about the Career Center. And I'm going to admit that when I first heard about the plan, I had some hesitancy. I had some ownership. This Career Center was built when I graduated from high school in 1970. So I, facetiously said tonight, I put my fingerprints in the cement. I didn't really, but I was here. And since I've been involved as a regional advisory board member and more recently as a board member, I've begun to see the magic that happens in these four walls is absolutely incredible. And the vision here is that this solves a lot of problems that the state is facing. And you start, talking about the data and, graduates staying here and the need for, technical education. I am so proud of this board for saying, yes, we're going to do this, in spite of the fact that there's other stuff going around us. And my mantra has become, as a board member, I cannot consciously continue to see 100 to 200 kids not be able to take advantage of this every year. I'm not doing my job as a board member if we can't solve that. And I guess I'll end by saying, if not now, when?
Thank you. It shows that Guy and I have been around here for a long time, but we are deeply ingrained in this and committed to it. And we hope that our community can see that this board is committed to this, because it means so much, not only to our students and our faculty, but also to our communities. And with that, I will turn it over to our superintendent, Jody Emerson.
I get the slide? Yep. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry I'm late. I had an engagement at the Canadian Club to share this information as well, so just got back from there. As a new district, we then kind of turned our focus on what are the board goals and what is the vision for the future for CVCC. And that vision was to keep moving with a re-envisioning project that started back in 2018, and to make sure that we can expand our capacity so the students who apply are actually more likely to be able to access the center. Right now, demand exceeds our space, and we would like to open the door to more students. We would like to increase our academic achievement, and one way that we envision doing that is by offering full-day programming so that students can meet all of their graduation requirements here inside our building or inside the new building. Students will be better supported. There will be more time for the integrated academics, for technical training, and for wraparound services. We're building clear pathways to advanced career credentials, hoping that students could get that much closer to an associate's degree as they achieve the requirements of Perkins 5, which is one of our federal funding sources, of industry recognized credentials and college credits. And then we also want to strengthen our partnerships as is part of Act 73 and also prior regulations around CTE, career technical education, to make sure that we're reaching into our middle school and giving them opportunities to see what goes on here and explore different careers.
I think Hannah.
It is my turn. Sorry, I did not get to introduce myself. I'm Hannah Leland. I'm the Assistant Director here at Central Vermont Career Center. The admissions data. So we've seen an overall increase in our applications over the last 5 years. Myself and Abby Allen have been in charge of it in the last 3 years. And the increase is quite significant, as you can see by the slide. We are having to turn away students, a significant number of students, to whether it be to a different school or just not having the programming space to them. And we really want to make sure that we have the space for students. That could mean new programming, that could mean additional programming of the same program that we have. And so we are hoping with a larger school that we would be able to provide more opportunities for all of our students who apply to us. And instead of turning away, hundreds of applications every year, making sure that we provide opportunities for those students.
So, my name is Cam Featherston Hahn. I need to. Good evening. My name is Cam Featherston Hahn. I'm a senior associate at Truex Collins in Burlington, Vermont. We're one of the architects working on this project. I wanted to talk a little bit about the site search. We have a series of selection criteria. You can see what they are here. I don't want to read them all, but essentially, centrally located with all of the utilities and accessible roadways to get there. And so we can go to the next slide, I think. We started with about 193 sites, which met the first 3 criteria. It was way too many to evaluate. And we added the criteria 4 through 7, and there were 33 sites that met that criteria. And then 16 sites that met the criteria once kind of nearby was removed from it. And those 16 sites form an A and a B list. We went through the entire A and B list. We found a few landowners that were willing to meet with us. And so we looked at a few different sites. I think we can go to the next slide. Looked at a few sites in more detail. We, in addition to private sites on Airport Road and in other locations in Barrytown, in Berlin, Four Corners, many of those sites were discarded because of wetlands or an inability to develop for regulatory reasons. We also took a pretty deep dive looking at the U32 site and did some test fits there. It was a very difficult fit, and it would have likely prevented any further consolidation in U32. And there's a talk in the community about a possible regional high school there. We also looked at Spalding High School, and it was also, again, a pretty much infeasible test fit. There were other issues with Spalding in terms of not having enough parking. The building is technically in a flood zone. So there was a lot of regulatory hurdles to overcome there, and it really just didn't fit. We also did approach Barrytown Industrial Park, but that was the site was not available at that time. The one location that fit all our criteria and had a willing landowner was in Graniteville, and you can see here a little location plan. The building sits nestled in a chunk of woods nearby Lower Graniteville. It's about a quarter mile or so from Rock of Ages. And it's a similar size facility to some of those granite sheds in that area.
Where's the mic? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. Oh, there we go. Yeah, but it just went past it. So we decided to keep 4 of the images in here. There are several exterior and interior images that can be found both on our website, and there is a video fly-through basically that's on social media and is connected to one of the links that's been on Front Porch Forum and can be sent to anyone who requests it. So this is looking at our front entrance. There are wonderful things about this. In fact, that there's the double doors to go in. This would be where students enter and where the public could also enter for access to our businesses, cosmetology, the salon, and the culinary would have a restaurant again, which would be wonderful. You can see that the base of this building is made in granite. We want to give homage to Graniteville for that. And then also there's a lighter upper level and lots of window opportunities to bring in natural light. That is definitely one of the things that all of us would benefit from and that we saw a lot of when we toured buildings in Maine. Energy efficiency is part of this design too. It's meant to be a net zero building. Our programs are not net zero, not all of them. So we wanted to make sure that the building was, if it could be. And so you'll see that we have parking, something that we do not have access to a whole lot of right now. We have solar panels on the roof. There are skylights as well to bring in that piece of the light. You can see the landscaping and the trees that buffer the property. The design provides, as I said, ample parking for staff and students as well as visitors, and allows us to have some yards outside for building construction projects, for automotive to work on, for building trades, for welding, electrical, plumbing and heating, all of them to have some outdoor spaces as well as inside spaces. It also gives us the opportunity to bring back natural resources and to use our land, that footprint for that. We are looking at following the building height restrictions for Graniteville, therefore could not build higher than what we see in this space. I think it's 35 foot. So the building is instead spread across the land and thus takes on a larger footprint. It's a full second floor, which is sort of a first floor for some of the heavier trades, and second floor, which is the exploratory programming. And then there's the partial bottom floor, which has our health and natural sciences section, and also the cosmetology and culinary programs. We did do a preliminary study around traffic, and it shows that at the AM peak, approximately 230 vehicles would be entering and 108 exiting. And a secondary study will be done to determine if there are any minor improvements that are needed at any of the intersections, and also if there are any other impact fees, which we've made allotments for in our budget. We do not anticipate many walkers, so new town sidewalks are unlikely, but our programs do not regularly operate heavy equipment on site. So the site plan includes buffers to protect neighbors from noise and activity. Overall, this is meant to be a facility that is functional, safe, and integrated within the community fabric, while providing the specialized spaces required for high quality career and technical education. This next image is the heart of the school, as we've been referring to it. And what's wonderful about this space is multi-use. There is a learning stair that you can see. There is a presentation wall that is not in this image. And this is where the cafeteria would be, allowing students to eat in this section. This is where our whole school could gather together for events, for quarter awards, for the end of year opportunities. And so this is the space where everyone could gather together and collaborate in different ways. There is a sound booth, and components of that for controlling the space would be part of our videography program, our digital media arts. Trying to make sure I don't miss anything. So some of the evening events like open house, trades fair, NTHS, the National Technical Honor Society, and awards fairs could take place in this. Although right now our adult ed activity is limited to emergency services, we anticipate future industry recertifications as part of this growth. And so those are going to be parts of the components of this whole space. We have different career pathway clusters, so their programming in this building is organized in that way. So as I said before, there's that health and human services and natural sciences hallway. There's the exploratory, which would be 9th and 10th grade hallway. There is the business, hospitality, and arts segment. And then there's the construction and advanced manufacturing segment. And then there's a transportation segment. Each one of those spaces has what we're calling a collaboration zone, which allows cross-program collaboration to happen, but also is an area where we can provide access to some very specific graduation requirements for students across that cluster of programming. So we can work with students in those collaboration zones. You can notice here that there's a, excuse me, a presentation wall. There's spaces for seating that's flexible. And also you can see some of that natural light I was talking about previously.
Briefly, I'll just note that we had a professional cost estimator, PMC out of Massachusetts, who does a lot of estimating for school projects, do a cost estimate based on the concept design, and then calculated the cost to be about 125 million, I believe, for construction. And there's another 24 million included of what we would call soft costs. That's permitting, legal fees, professional fees, moving costs, et cetera. And so the project budget, including all the work needed by all parties, including the owner and everybody else to get the job done, is around $149 million. And I'll note that that does include cost escalation to get us to that future point when the contract will be signed. It's in 2027 dollars, let's call it.
Great, thanks. So I worked with a senior tax analyst at the State Department, as well as with the Vermont Bond Bank. So I tried to project the numbers and how it's going to impact taxes. I used FY26 numbers, which is the most recent year of complete data that I have available. And you may or may not have seen the numbers in the past. There's no change to those numbers. I did want to make a note, though, of income sensitivity. It was never modeled, nor is it now. But looking at that, it looks like the same, you can expect the same percentage of rise as with somebody that's income sensitive, with somebody that's not income sensitive. So if your taxes are rising 5%, an income sensitive person would also rise 5%. So they kind of stay in line with each other. This was a graph that has been shared, giving the anticipated tax impacts of the bond in the current, with the current budget right now. This is based off a $300,000 house. And again, income sensitivity is not modeled, but if the percentage increase on someone's house is going up X% in your neighborhood, whether you're income sensitive or not, it will likely increase the same amount. I recapped it at the end. The total cost is $149 million. Working with a Vermont Bond Bank, it looks like it'd be about $9.4 million annually to pay that back. The average is, I can't even see. Sorry, I can't read on this screen. The average is less than $300 though, for the entirety, with the low being $99 and the high being $420. The only additional information that I have to share tonight that's new, that hasn't been shared in the past, is we did go ahead and model what our operating budget would be if we increase the programming to meet the capacity in the new building. And it looks like it'd add about $3.1 million to our already $5 million budget. So I again took the model that we had forecasting for the bond anticipation, and it looks like that would increase between $27 and $166 with an average of $80 per household. Another thing to note, when I'm estimating a $3.1 million increase for the total facilities costs, that includes increased staffing, so the academic teachers that we would need, the nursing staff, the facilities, the grounds, extra programming, supplies, I kind of tried to look at everything else that would be a cost, less the amount we pay, about $500,000 a year to BUSD for their facility use.
So, I guess I'd like to say right off the bat that I've really appreciated the discourse on Front Porch Forum and Facebook. I think it's been fantastic. And most of them start with, we understand the value of the program. And I just wanted to reiterate some of those things. So there's some studies done that show that graduation rates at CTEs are higher than at traditional schools, that the students that come out of CTEs have more opportunities for higher paying jobs. And in fact, a student that graduates from high school has between a 5 and 50% earnings premium over one who doesn't. And since graduation rates are higher, we can extrapolate that that is going to be a benefit to our community. That, of course, turns into people with good paying jobs are now increasing our tax base, hopefully home ownership. A lot of these programs are people that we need that are building and cutting hair and all of those things that make our community that much better. So it's easy to say, this is going to get better, but it truly is. There are numbers to back it up that everything that we do is a positive investment in the community.
This quote actually came from someone who attended one of our board meetings a few months ago, Myers Marmel. It's not a direct quote from him, but it's basically taking what he said. And he stood up in that meeting and talked about this project as being constructive and that it's going to build the community. It's not tearing it apart or destructing it. And just thinking about that and expanding career and technical education it's not just about education. It's a strategy, as Lyman said, to strengthen our economy, to support our families, and to build the future of Vermont. And it feels like we have this opportunity to do that now. And I'm so grateful that Mr. Marmel came to that meeting and said that, because it really helped me to reframe a little bit some of the conversation. So this is the last slide. So I know, thank you for hanging in there for a long presentation. I'm sorry it took so long. We do have, Washington Central has a community meeting tomorrow night that I will also be at. On Saturday morning from 9 to noon, I'll be at the Waitsfield transfer station. I was just at the Montpelier one this past Saturday and got to talk to some folks. Twinfield has invited us to their board meeting on October 14th, so next Tuesday. The bond vote is November 4th. The votes will get commingled on November 6th, so we will know the outcome on November 6th, and it is a simple majority across all 18 towns because everybody's votes come together. If it passes, the next steps are design and permits, building construction to start in the spring of 27 and complete in the spring of 29, with the building opening in the fall of 29. If it does not pass, I anticipate that the facilities committee would come back together and determine what, if anything, they need to change, and whether or not they would go for a second vote in March. So the facilities committee would need to make those decisions after the outcome of that bond vote. And I'm going to stop sharing. And I don't know if you took a note of the people who wanted to speak, if they had a chance to say in the comments. And I know we have one person here. How are you?
I anticipated that we would just go around the room and online and have individuals have an opportunity to speak. We'll get as many people as we can to get their first comments and questions in. And after that's done, we'll open it again for anyone who has already had an opportunity to enhance or expand their questions. So we'll start, I guess, in the room here. And if you would you tell us who you are and where you're from?
My name is Linda Owen and I live in Berrytown. Dear to my heart, first of all, before I even get started, everybody in this room and on Zoom, if you're going to be 65 before 2060, would you put your hand in the air? Because
Wait, what?
guess what?
65
By
by 2000?
2030, there are going to be 25% of us in this state who are going to be over 65. Now, I made 65 a while ago. I don't climb ladders. I don't crawl under sinks. I don't go out and try, well, I do jumpstart the car because I have this nifty thing now. But we need people who are young and who can do these things. I taught at the Randolph Tech Center. I was the English teacher. I came over from the dark side to Tech Ed, and it was great. It was great. I have trained some of the teachers who are still here through VTC, through their teacher prep program, which I was part of creating. So I know how important this is. And you folks are taking a huge step, and I commend you. I just have a few little notes here. If you talk to anyone who sat in a faculty meeting with me, they'd be like, oh my God. But I was looking at some articles. I read Colin Flanders, 7 Days, March 6, 2024. The median age right now in the construction industry is 43. 43. Okay. Half of our nurses are over 48 years old. And some of them are really great. 1 of 3 primary practicing physicians in Vermont is over 60 years old. And we can't get enough people, so we are spending a ton of money bringing in temporary traveling nurses and doctors. And guess who ends up paying that bill? All of us. Then I started looking at, the learners. I don't know about anybody in here, but when I was in high school, I sat down, hard to believe, I zipped my lips, I read, I wrote, I regurgitated information, and I did well. And went on to a 4-year school to become a teacher. The students we're seeing who are trying to get to the center don't do that well. These students are kinesthetic learners. They need physical movement. They need to touch and do things. They need experiences along with reading and writing. They're the ones that they get sent to the tech center and the teacher says, oh my God, I can't believe you got them. And they can sit and they can do what they need to do. Because they don't sit in a traditional classroom and learn in traditional ways. I can read all about how to change a tire, but I'm not going out there to do it. It's not happening. Oh boy, it was really great when I needed a tire changed. And an ex-student I had as a 7th grader came to take care of me. He goes, I remember you. You know how to do this? And I said, no, I do not. I also found some information about pathways to education. And we're not just talking about high school students. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We just like to give everybody an opportunity. If there was some way that you could sum up, we would appreciate that.
All right. If you want adult learners and you want your high school kids and you want your tech kids, you have to have this center. And anybody who wants my information, I'm glad to put you You can have my quote.
And what we'll do is we'll take your paperwork and we'll add it to the minutes as a presentation. And we thank you very much for coming.
Please, those of you on Zoom, those of you here, we need to do this. This needs to
Is it,
sooner rather than later.
is there anyone online who would like to ask a question or make a comment? You have your hand raise option, or you can actually raise your hand if you're out there in the world.
Sue and then Deborah.
Sue, is that Sue Paxman? The Sue?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay, first, before asking any questions, I want to say that I and everyone I know supports education in the trades and in tech. All right, that's not even, that's a given. All right, everyone knows how much we need students coming out of school with trade skills and tech skills. All right, that is just a plain given. Okay, so I want to be clear on that. The $149 million, well, that's another issue completely. So anyway, my questions. The slide that was talking about why Spalding High School is not feasible, that slide was gone through pretty quickly. And my question is, okay, so enrollment in the 70s was 1,200 students. And now enrollment at Spalding High School is 561 students. The school hasn't shrunk. The building has not shrunk. So to me, that says that there is room for another 639 students in regular classrooms, okay? I do understand that there are some classrooms that need taller ceilings and wider open spaces. But there's I am, I'm shocked if there is not room in that high school building right now to reconfigure it to put another 639 students for regular classes, okay? Now like I said, the slide for why the current Spalding High School is not feasible, that went by pretty quickly, and I didn't get to take that all in. But I guess my question is, besides building a brand new school for $149 million, I understand, I guess you've checked several vacant buildings or other places to build, or I'm not sure exactly what you did, but have you checked all the vacant buildings and spaces that there are around? And do you have it documented somewhere for everyone to see what vacant buildings you have looked into and why they wouldn't work and how much it would cost to renovate them if necessary? I guess, you know, everyone is wanting to know why there are so many vacant buildings, not why there are so many vacant buildings. Everyone is wondering why the vacant buildings and spaces are not feasible enough to put.
Right, well, let's address that. We'll answer that question. Who wants to?
I can speak to that partially. The 193 sites that were investigated did not select out properties that had existing buildings. So properties with existing buildings on them, vacant or otherwise, even occupied, were in that 193 parcel swath. Many properties that were investigated that had buildings on them had functioning buildings, like the old Bond Auto Parts building up on the hill. And there were no parcels identified that had existing buildings of sufficient size or site area that could be reconfigured. At least not within the target area of central Vermont. And we looked in Montpelier, Berry City, Berrytown, Berlin corners, most.
Montpelier, East Montpelier.
Montpelier, East Montpelier, yeah. A little bit of Middlesex there.
Can I jump in? And so they couldn't be reconfigured for exactly for what you're looking for in the new building, but could they house some of the programs? You know, could they, okay, because that's my next question.
Yeah.
Is-
Sue, I can respond to that a little bit. One of the things that we think about is like, right now, the Burlington Tech Center is displaced into 5 locations. It was at 9 different ones. And so at the time and now, the director is never where they need to be. And so oversight of those can be very difficult. One of the things that happened while we were looking for a welding space, I don't know if you were involved in that at all, but we were told at one point by the Agency of Education that unless the building belonged to a school, that we couldn't invest in it. I think what we've since learned is that there has to be a very long-term lease agreed to so that the depreciation of anything we put into it happens before the end of that lease, for it to be a feasible space for us to equip. So we would have to find either a long-term rental and multiple of them to house different programs, and then figure out how to oversee those and make sure that the students are safe and that we can get subs there and that we have enough staff, which I think would increase the number of staff overall we need. It's not impossible. But those are some of the barriers to looking at multiple spaces to have our center kind of spread out around.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there are barriers. But I don't know.
And it still could be an option.
Yeah. Okay.
think-
All right.
I
Okay.
think the hope is that when the voters come out, and we hope they come out on November 4, and they vote with their, whatever they believe, that gives us a place to know where we can go from here.
Okay.
And so it either says, this is the right way to go, or this is not the right way to go, and you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what might be the right way to go.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. Okay.
And just to pick up on that a little bit, Sue, there are overarching requirements, not just from us as the career center. There are requirements from the Agency of Education, from the federal government, from the state. As far as what we're doing, we need to make sure that we're not in a wetland. We need to make sure that we have fingerprints. If we rent from someone, everyone who is a partner in that rental, we have to have their fingerprints. So there are all these different factors that lead into having our educational community in one space, not only for the safety and the well-being of the students, but also for administration and handling the events of the day-to-day events of instruction and teaching, and the building the community of learners that are in a single school building.
Okay. Well, there are challenges to everything. So, okay. But I hear your point. And like I say, there are always options. There are always challenges. There are always ways to overcome those challenges. And, there just are. I mean, $149 million is a lot of money. So the next question here is, so you're going to duplicate all of the classes that are at Spalding High School, like math, algebra, geometry, biology. This new school is intended to duplicate all of those classes that are currently at the high school right now?
No, we do want to meet all students' graduation requirements, but we want to do so through integrated academics that are aligned with the programming and the students' interest. And so it would not look like traditional classes. It's going to be project-based, problem-based, and there could be workshops that help students get to particular proficiencies that they need for graduation, but we're not intending to offer the traditional courses for all students.
So reading, writing, arithmetic, I mean, English, reading,
So
math.
right now we have our co-op students, for example, are taking qualitative math with our integrated STEM person who is doing some training around that applies to all the programs. So they can see how data sets in their program, whether it's plumbing or electrical or baking, how they could be manipulated in a spreadsheet. They're working through different pieces of the math curriculum in an applied way. So it's a little different than the traditional courses.
Like, how about English? Literature.
Yeah, our kids are getting college credits for them.
Okay. How many teachers do you plan to have at this new school? Non-trade or tech teachers. Okay. How many teachers for the academics? How many teachers do you plan to have?
Just a minute, we're looking that up. So it looks like 9 academic instructors, but we would also have a case manager, an additional special ed person. We would add a school counselor. So we have a school counseling coordinator. So there's a couple of other that might fall into that category of teaching contract that are not like academic instructors.
9 academic instructors, only 9 academic instructors for 400, 500 kids?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
We have.
So obviously, if the Career Center pulls out of Spalding High School, where you pay rent now, there's going to be a void there. So the BUUSD / Spalding High School will not have that income coming in. Now, if you've got an apartment house and somebody moves out, you need to fill that spot, or you're stuck with, the expenses still. So,
And I can speak to that, Sue.
it's going to pay.
That is something that the BUSD board is taking under consideration, and we are very much aware of that factor and how we are going to deal with it. And we are coming up with opportunities and contingencies for that. As far as not only expanding our programs, but maybe taking in some additional programs. And there's still time and there's still think time to arrange what can be done with that space. So I think what we'd like to do, and we really appreciate all your questions, but we do need to move on because there are other folks that are waiting.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So Devorah, you're next.
I might be able to unmute.
Muted.
Yeah. We have to open up your voice, Devorah.
Oh,
There should be like a mic.
Ah,
There you
is this
go.
okay. So
Now we
I
can
want,
hear you.
I had, so first, I agree with Sue. We really need to do something to have more people have access to trade training. That's not the question, but there are questions. So one is, how many students do you expect would be in this new complex? About 500?
450. It would 450 to 500, but we're aiming for 450.
Okay. And it seems to me what you've got is your academic students in one place and your trade students someplace else. And this concerns me. I'm from New York City, where we have that situation when I was growing up, and it wasn't a great idea. We never got to meet each other. And I think it's really important for a community that the students all get a chance to interact with one another. I'm also wondering about how you can, let's see. It said in one of the things that the students were going to class 4 hours a day. And if that's the case, then you could accommodate twice as many students by having morning shift and afternoon shift without any building at all. I guess that'll do for questions for now.
All right, thank you very much. We're gonna go here in the room.
I just had one quick question. What does the acronym CTE stand for?
Career Technical Education. All right, thank you.
I
And you-
can respond to
and you
that.
are, sir?
Steve, yes.
Yes.
Currently, we are a full-day career and technical education center, and the minimum requirements for a student are 1,200 minutes a week. Our students are here, they arrive on campus between 7:45 and 8:20 each day, and they are in their program specific from 8:30 to 12:30, and then they go to lunch, and then they return to their sending schools right now. If we were to open another shift, we would have to overlap that lunch. We would have, our sending schools would have to provide transportation to the students twice per day. And I would say that right now we are at Spalding High School. So Spalding High School and the Tech Center students are on the same campus, but we have 5 other sending schools. And so we do have students who do not have a Tech Center on their campus who are attending here. And so students come here, they're here for their program day and for lunch, and then they return to their sending school currently for whatever additional graduation requirements that they need to meet. Our hope is that they wouldn't have to travel back to their sending school to attend a class like that, and that we would have them full day and wrap around all of that services. If we instead decided to try here to open a second shift, it would have to be a little later in the day. So it would have to be that 1 to 5, which would require a duplication of all of our services. My day is 7 to 4 right now. I would need to extend that beyond the 4 to 7 to 5 plus to make sure that I'm covering it. We would have only the lunch transition for teachers to be able to communicate back and forth. There are some concerns about if a project is happening from the morning exploratory class, where do we put their project so that the second shift of exploratory students could work on it? And so there's some concerns around that. And quite frankly, we do need to improve or update our air supply systems and our dust collection and all of those systems across our heavy trades. So we're going to need to invest heavily in that, especially if we're going to have that many more students here throughout the day. I wonder about parking because we only have 25 student spots right now. And Air Street is quite full if you live on Air Street or have to travel it at all during the school day, that when we do have students here. And where would we put those students in that transition time when they're all overlapping for lunch? And how would there's some contract stuff that we would have to renegotiate. Not impossible. Those are barriers. They're not insurmountable. So it is something that we could discuss again, but there are some obstacles that we would need to figure out.
Is there another question from the room? Any questions from the room? Okay. Allison, we'll go with, are you here?
Yep, hi.
I'm sorry. I just want to add to Delora, if we did have a split session, it would also mean that those students who were in the later session wouldn't be able to be participants in their school sports program. And that's very powerful and formative as these young students really work collaboratively with each other in doing a sport together. And I think that's critical to really healthy, robust development.
Ms. Cornwall, are you ready?
Hi. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I also have some questions. I guess there's a few concerns I have. The first thing is you mentioned an associate's degree for these high school students. Am I hearing that right? That these students have never graduated high school, but they'll be getting an associate's degree, or that's the plan if they finish the technical college curriculum?
They're getting closer to it. They won't have it, but they're getting closer to it. We have, as Alice was referring to, the requirements from state and federal law, and the federal Perkins requires that every program has either industry recognized credentials, 2 or more for most of them, or that they have college credits. And in some cases it's both. And so we have had students recently graduating from our programs with as much as 33 credits. So it is getting some students closer to that.
I find that concerning, honestly. So we're taking the students that are not thriving in a traditional high school environment, and we're giving them college credit for what are not college level classes. And are they accredited? I mean, is there some sort of like, if they're going to get, I guess that would be what you mentioned, part of the accreditation process, but for a lot of these degrees and certificates, or at least degree programs, they would need an accreditation status. And that's where like VTSU, so one of the places I'm going to go is VTSU. That's where, like, you know, they have all that. So that, and they have capacity and they have space. And so it seems like, you know, working with VTSU really closely might solve a lot of problems, and with CCD as well. Both organizations
That's where
have
those
capacity
credits.
and-
Yeah, thank you. That's where those credits are coming from. VTSU was the paramedic program in our emergency services, the EMT. So that's where students were getting that many credits. Some of our college credits are coming from CCB, and some of them are coming from White Mountain Community College. So all this, the teachers have to go through a process, and they have to follow a syllabus and a curriculum first, and the students have to pass the assessments in order to get those credits. So it's available to all students. Not all students necessarily attain that.
Okay. All right. I mean, I think that's helpful. I guess I disagree a little again that I feel like high school is for high school credit, but I see that that's a national or a federal law. I guess I also want to kind of touch on this idea that we have a limited number of high school students, and we have had decreasing enrollment in all of our high schools. That's why we've had to recently have mergers and make these really difficult decisions at the local level. So we're hoping maybe from the Bridge article that I read to funnel 150 traditional high school students into this new program. So right now we're supporting, it sounds like if a total is 450, we're supporting 300 technical students. And so we're going to be paying the 149 million to support 150 more. I'm worried about that kind of cost analysis right there. And also the second part of that question is, we have so many schools that have closed. I know you guys talked about other options. I just want to make sure that, you know, we're thinking about, can we use the existing school facilities? You know, could there be a school that does culinary and a school that does this or that, that does auto tech, a school that does whatever these programs are, so that maybe people could go to different high schools and still get the technical education they're hoping for while using the existing facilities we have or retrofitting them.
Yes, those would still have to be under our umbrella. And so whoever the director is for the program here, whether it's me or someone else in the future, those would have to be under their umbrella. So they would have to hire them, they would have to supervise them, and they would have to be a part of that process and make sure that there were subs available to go out to those various spaces. I think there was a point long before I worked here or even in the sending schools where we did have our pre-tech programs out in 3, I think, of the sending schools. And I'm not sure of what happened to those to bring them back, but they no longer exist out in the sending school. So it's not something that's unheard of. It has happened before.
Okay. And there is not space at school. So I was hoping, like, just to let that sit for a moment too. We're moving students. So we're going to decrease enrollment at high schools we have, and we're moving students to so we're building new school facilities when we already have a declining enrollment overall. And we're going to pay $150 million to service 150 new students per year. That really concerns me. Do any of you have any, I mean, that feels like a reasonable trade, sort of dollars per student wise?
So
Go ahead.
can I just I'm from the Washington Central Board, and we've been discussing ways of adjusting programs and the calendar and all that because of the changes in enrollment or the lower numbers in the last few years. And our board is unanimous in supporting making pathways for students that fit their education needs the most clearly. And I think that this project does that. Yes, we're going to have some kids from U32 that are no longer in our building, and we need to figure out ways of making efficiencies in that building because there will be less kids once this project is built. But our board is committed to making the changes that we need to make to support those students in their new in the new facility.
Okay. Well, I think other people have asked questions I had. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Galford? Are you there? All right, we'll come back to Amy. How about Wendy?
Or Wendell.
Wendell, all right, Wendell. Bifocals.
Wendell.
Oh.
Hello,
Hello.
Wendell and my name is Ed, are. The first question I have is, the building seems to be someone's signature masterpiece and has a number of architectural features such as the heart that is not the minimum needed to have a operable school. And it seems that when we have facility that will be rendering other facilities less utilized, that the minimum facility is what this needs to be as far as the non-educational portions. There was a number of good features in the building, but 150 million for 150 extra students seems like someone is building empires rather than trying to utilize taxpayer dollars in the most frugal manner. It's as essential to have this education. It's desperately needed by the state. But it is not essential that we spend $150 million to serve an additional 150 students. We could spend money, for example, U32 that has space, they'd be pleased, I bet, to have a culinary program or an art-related program using up some of their space. And this is not the economy to have a large indebtedness transferred to the taxpayers. And so I think you need to go back to the drawing board and look to see how you can utilize existing facilities. The student's going to be coming for sometimes as much as 40 or 50 minutes away. If some of the facilities were at U32, some in other high schools, the average drive might not be so much. Thank you.
That's true. It would just require some additional transportation to get folks to all the different places.
You can buy a lot of transportation for 150 million bucks. You can buy a lot of extra seats at schools. You can buy a lot of renovations at existing high schools for 150 million bucks. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other people in the room?
I don't know if Amy.
Oh, are you still there?
I'd like to just make a quick comment.
Yes.
Because we keep talking about $150 million and 150 students, but it's really, if you look over 10 years or 20 years, it's going to be over thousands of students that this $150 million is going to support, plus the economic development and the future of Central Vermont is also hinging on this spending. So from my perspective, I try to look at the long term and think about all the students over 20 or 30 years that could be served by this investment and the community members who could be served by the investment. So as a board member, I've had to grapple with this because I'm also a taxpayer. But I'm thinking, wow, what a great investment in the future of Central Vermont.
Wendell, do you have a response?
$150 million for 10,000 students is still thousands of dollars per student. even tens of thousands of dollars per student. And it doesn't take very many students at tens of thousands of dollars per student to pay for some additional staff at the schools being distributed.
Thank you.
May I
Judy?
respond to that also?
Wait a minute, hold on a second. We'll get back to you, Ms. Cornwall. Judy, your turn.
So can I say something really quickly?
Yes, please.
So Scott Lewins, I'm a board member in Montpelier Roxbury District and a community member in Montpelier, and I just want to I don't think it's as easy as some folks understand to be able to staff like when you mention like it's you just add a couple of bus routes, right? It's not that easy, right? Our buses, we can't find enough drivers now to staff our bus routes, right? And so I think it's very easy to think of alternative solutions that could fix that could address the issues that we're trying to address. But the reality is that like some of those are a lot easy to say and they sound great, but when it comes to actually the operations behind, if you've got locations in 3 or 4 or 5, if you've got classes in 3 or 4 or 5 locations, right, then each of the sending school districts have to bus their students to an additional 4 or 5 locations, right? So the complexity there, it's not just that simple, right? And so I just want to remind folks that, right, these are considerations that a lot of people have been thinking about over many years, right? And just yeah, I just want to say not all of those solutions are as simple as it sounds.
Okay. Judy, are you there? All right, we'll come back to Judy. Who are we? Amy?
Amy's on the phone.
Amy, are you there? Yeah. Where's Amy? You there? No. All right. So, Mr. Castellano?
You're muted.
There. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so I want to echo the concerns of a lot of other people. I mean, for one thing, we are concerned that, for one, there's going to be a consolidation of school districts, because we cannot support the number of school districts that we have right now in Vermont. The property taxes to support those school districts are already through the roof. And when I was looking at the concept, I was going, my God, this is almost like the Taj Mahal. I mean, is there any way that you can scale down what you are asking? I mean, I certainly understand when you have a blank slate, let's shoot for the moon, but I think we need to be a little bit more realistic and have the concerns of some of the taxpayers. I support the fact that we do need technical education. We do need to have students who are well versed in a variety of different things, but I'm wondering if we can scale down the scope. I think the timing, unfortunately, is your timing is very unfortunate. We're facing here in Vermont a number of fiscal constraints and certainly some budget constraints. And I live in Montpelier, which has one of the highest residential property tax rates in the entire state. And I'm just concerned about my taxes going up even more than they already are. And 60% of my property taxes go to support the schools.
Thank you. Judy's not there. Amy, let's try. Amy, are
I'm
you
here.
there?
Judy's here.
Okay.
Oh, Judy.
I'm
Judy,
here.
you're here. Okay, Judy, what's your question or comment?
My comment first is that Barry was built on granite. And if I remember correctly, the land that you're proposing to build this facility on was part of Rock of Ages land at one time. And has there been any testing of the land for radon? And how are you going to take care of that? And my other comment is that we're an aging population in this area, and most of us are on Social Security with very little extra. And it's getting harder and harder to keep our house. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's no radon system at the house that's currently there, which does have a basement. Well, that's one indication. I'm not personally concerned about radon at the site, but it will obviously be tested when and if this becomes a reality. There's not much of a basement in this site. It's mostly slab on grade, the proposed design, so we'll take that as it comes.
All right. Any other comments, concerns, questions? Well, Sue?
I have another comment, concern, or question if it's a time,
Okay.
or I can wait. I just want to come back to this 150 students, 149 million. I get that we get students every year, but we also have interest payments on that 149 million. So it's disingenuous to think that it's just 149 million, depending on how far we look forward. And regarding the difficulties, I totally get it. And I am also passionately in agreement with technical education. I worked at VTC. My husband works there now. Like, we're behind this 100%, but like, we need new bus routes to get there. So we're going to have that same problem with bus routes just getting there. Like, I feel like some of these problems we're kind of underrepresenting how they would impact us as we are. And we could also pay more. We could, if we are not spending all that money, we could pay our bus drivers better. We could pay our teachers better. And I think we'd have less trouble hiring. You know, if we pay $1 million a year, we're going to get lots of applicants for teachers. If we pay $1 a year, we get none. So somewhere in between there, you know, if we pay more, we will get more and better applicants.
Thank you. Now back to Sue. So are you?
That was Sue.
No, that was
No, that was Allison.
Oh.
Sue, you're still muted. Hit the button.
Got it. Okay, sorry. Okay, so my comment is, okay, so our taxes will raise by what they will, what the projection is for the first year, and then that will stay with us every year. But there are also going to be budget increases for BUUSD and for the Career Center in their, quote, $149 million building, which their budget increases will be more than likely more than they are right now. So, you know, we're not just going to have a budget we're not going to just have a tax increase with this 149 million once. It's going to carry on year after year after year. Plus, every spring, there are school, BUUSD and each individual sending school, they all have their budget increases, plus the CC Central Vermont Career Center. So, I mean, taxes are just going to like keep going and going and going. And Judy said that, you know, I mean, the first woman that spoke was talking about how, you know, we're all getting older and the percentage of, you know, people that are seniors or whatever. Well, yeah, okay. And so we're all on fixed incomes and on Social Security, and our taxes just keep going and going and going. And I just think that there are other ways that are much more frugal than $149 million school. That's all. Okay, I'm done.
Well,
and I support the Career Center 100%. I'll repeat that again and again and again. And I support education in trades and tech. It's just that is a lot of money right now for all of us. You know, when you can't even buy you can't even go to the grocery store and spend less than $20 for 2 items, 3 items. You know, it's not a good time right now. Okay, that's it.
True. I just,
Jenna?
you know, in some of the information I've been reading, the tax report and so forth, the hope is that along the way, we'll be getting grants that will have some of those costs will be defrayed. There'll be education fund monies coming in. I mean, I don't know what that really means in terms of what a bottom line number is, but 149 million isn't 149 million as we continue to look for other ways to decrease the cost to the taxpayers going forward over these 30 years.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that we don't intend to, if it passes,
Right.
if the bond passes, we don't intend to just celebrate and stop there. Like, we're going to do our due diligence to find any other funding that might be available to offset it so that it's not on the whole shoulders of taxpayers. But we can't promise anything.
Right, there's
And-
no guarantee.
And there is so much uncertainty that there's a lot that people are questioning right now. And I think what we can say is that right now we're a school district with a board who has made this decision based on the information they have and is moving it forward, and that our communities will let us know what it is that they're thinking about this proposal. And from there, we'll make some decisions.
Ms. Galford, last question?
Yeah, can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, had to reboot on another device. Yeah, I had a few questions, also overlap a lot with other folks. I live in Berry City. I grew up in another state, but I did grow up with a magnet school program there that was a half-day science and technology program. So I definitely appreciate the value of having regional programs that can give you resources that you can't have otherwise. You know, Berry City, even when we have repeatedly failed, our local school budget has overwhelmingly supported the Career Center. So I think that support is there without question, and we all agree on that. But the reality is for Berry City, for Plainfield, for Montpelier, for other local communities, I think this is a little tone deaf to the other bond votes and the other fiscal challenges that the local communities are facing. You know, you didn't speak to the details of like water and wastewater, but you know, part of what Berry City needs to protect is the wastewater system, which I don't know if it's going to have an on-site septic there, or if you're going to use the Berry Town system that connects to the Berry City system. But you know, we have to come into compliance for our wastewater treatment plant, and that's not a wish list item. That's a requirement even to keep our current high school and residents functioning. You know, just massive damage in Plainfield and other places, and the focus is really on infrastructure and housing. In the criteria, I saw about the 20 acres. I didn't hear the reason why 20 acres was set as a minimum size. It seems to me like that rules out a whole lot of potential locations. And then you said for Graniteville in particular, the local zoning required you to have a larger footprint for the school because you're spreading it out as opposed to being able to build up. And it seems like maybe there would be different options elsewhere depending on the zoning. You know, as other people have said, there's, you know, again, just like the flooding is unfortunate timing for trying to do this kind of project. Also the school districting climate. So we're in a position where we have the state universities are changing, community colleges are changing, tech education is changing, school districts are changing. Talking about, you know, a bond that's going to run for decades. I don't even know what Vermont school districts are going to look like in 3 years. I don't know what happens to a bond if, you know, the composition of the towns, I forget the number of towns, but, you know, however many towns are in this district, and we've all been supportive of this, what happens if the districting changes? What happens to the debt? You know, I'll just reiterate the point people were making about full day enrollment will pull from other schools at a time when schools are under pressure to consolidate. When you talked about you know, I'm wondering about the school population forecast. If the number of students is going down already over the scale of, you know, 30 years, one of the assumptions you listed in the financial data was that enrollment will be stable. And I think it's terrible that kids are getting turned away from the tech center, and that definitely needs to be remediated. But, you know, is there a 30-year forecast for how many, you know, we know how many kindergartners there are now. I don't know what the data is, but like, what's the trend in central Vermont for, you know, what enrollment is needed to try to right size this? Because it seems like a lot of the decision here is being driven by single large location, one single building to serve a certain population. Again, I'm really surprised that there's not an option, say, not to have a building for every different program and rentals all over the place, but 2 buildings, part of Spalding, part of another building. Are the cosmetology students, the baking students, the natural resources students, the automotive students, are they taking the same classes, or could they feasibly be in different locations, particularly if it still is a part-day curriculum? And could they actually be located near businesses where they could be doing, I don't know what the connection is with businesses in terms of internships or practical education, that kind of thing, but it just seems like there's other places than Graniteville that might have more direct connections to, I don't know, restaurants, cosmetology, healthcare, automotive, that kind of thing. You know, just when I drive through Berlin on the Barry Montpelier Road, I think, why isn't the Career Center here somewhere? Why don't we find a way to build it there? And it just seems like you could, with the half-day program, have smaller buildings. I'm also wondering, you know, there's the trade-off of, yes, renovations cost money too. And it sounded like it was kind of an even trade-off, or not a good trade-off, but this would open in 2029. So this still doesn't fix the current enrollment problem for 4 years. Could a renovation happen sooner? And even if it's more expensive in certain measures, could it actually be something with renovation or smaller schools, or not having a gigantic, beautiful atrium, which looks great, but like, I just don't see that happening in the current budget climate we have in the state. You know, I'd love to see a solution sooner for the students who are getting turned away. And this, I heard 2029 for the start for that. That's it.
Thank you. All right. We are very appreciative of everyone who came tonight, who participated online. We really appreciate the input. It gives us something to think about. But as we are here, we're going right at the moment, we are going forward with our bond vote. So we just encourage everyone to participate in that. And we will certainly take all of this under consideration. And we thank you very much for your participation. We're very grateful for that. We thrive on that. And the board most certainly heard what you are saying, and we will continue to recognize that as part of our thinking as we move forward. So thank you all, and we will move into our regular board meeting at this time. Yes, how about a 6-minute break?